So, welcome to Theater School Rejects Episode 7. Again, Doug X at Love is Cthulhu.
Robert Kyle at Typo Nevermind.
And Robert asked me what we're going to do, and I thought that's a discussion we should have on the air.
Yes. So we're up to Episode 7. By the way, I'm shocked and surprised it took 6 whole episodes for Doug to call out one of my friends.
I've been keeping my belligerence in check.
I, by the way, do not in any way, shape, or form advocate for the brawling or dueling between my friends.
But it happens so often. And it's not always involving me.
That's true. So I do have friends who don't get along with each other, and that's fine. You got theatrical types and literary types and just all these great brains, and none of them function, I would say, smoothly. But they all function extraordinarily, and so you're going to get clashes.
So things tend to go more smoothly when I'm not around. Even if I'm not involved in the fights, I tend to facilitate them.
Doug is actually probably one of the more my brawly friends. I'm a pacifist. People ask me if I'm a bouncer at the club, and I always tell them I have a black belt in falling down and crying.
Robert is also like 6'4" and could be a badass fighter if that was the way his inclinations go, but he's much more inclined to get up on stage and talk.
I am very fortunate I happen to be a mild giant, and that gets me out of a lot of fights, as does running away and pleading for my life also. I
don't know if I've put this theory out in a podcast, but as a guy, I think that every inch above 6 foot is like a girl having a larger chest size. Like 6'1" is like a C cup, 6'2" is like a D cup, 6'3" is double Ds, and 6'4" is like E cup. Like the free drinks that you get with artificial double Ds, like if there was an operation that could give you 4 inches in height, like guys would be lining up around the door.
So I'm like an E cup, or perhaps all the way to an F. That's good to know, despite the fact that theory kind of is against all of my politics. I kind of also see it.
Well, it cuts both ways because it makes me feel better because I'm 5'8", and Robert has to rethink, all those girls who, like, when I chatted up and told them my character, maybe it was my height and not my character that they were caring about.
All those girls being like 1.5.
I'm not talking about all the girls. I'm just talking about the ones that you got in the bed with the line, let me tell you about my character.
Yeah.
The very narrow subset of that much larger group.
I think I might posit that it's that I wasn't trying to get anyone to bed. I'm one of those people that, like, I don't realize flirting until they, like, hit me over the head with their underwear.
My favorite thing I ever said, I have lots of favorite things I've said to girls, but on the subject of flirting, our friend Roxanne was super pissed at me. She's like, how can you hit on my friend while you're at my party? And I said, and her friend defended me, he's not hitting on me. And I said, no, I totally am. How's it going? She goes, pretty well.
See, that's smooth. That's smooth with a V.
So this is the first time we've cut stuff out. I said some things that I don't want getting out on podcasts.
But we were talking about Rocky and how Doug has brought people to that culture, and I too met a lot of my social group through Rocky. That was for me. I know that was a big, broadening, very eye-opening experience. People being very open about sexuality and hanging out in the line and getting to know people and smoking clove cigarettes. And so that was a big. When did you first go to Rocky? That's a good question.
So I went to Rocky in first time. I guess I was in Newport, Rhode Island. And I was in Naval Academy Preparatory School, and I would go to the show they would have like twice a week, and I started bringing my Naval Academy Preparatory friends, and that was fun because eventually they needed to because there wasn't like the Long Beach Rocky where there was this huge crowd. They would do experiments to bring in people, and they would let you produce your own version of Rocky. You could bring in your own friends and make a cast, and they would kind of guide you through it. And so I put together a Rocky horror cast for my Naval Academy Preparatory School friends. So all these military types became Rocky for one night. And I was Brad, and
I can see that.
Come cast someone as Rocky. I was, I was also producing and directing, so it wasn't trying to be like, and I was never going to be Frankenfurter, but my friend Angel was Frankenfurter, and we're in like this like Target, but it wasn't Target, but it was equivalent of Target back then, and he yells out to me, he's looking for shoes, and he goes, "Why do I always have to be the girl?" And we're in a military town, and this is like 1993. And I just said, without missing a beat, "Because you look prettier in heels." He's like, "Thank you." And eventually, after that, about half the Rocky Horror cast started dating people from Naval Academy Preparatory School. Like there was 3 couples that formed. So I kind of bridged the gap between cultures that were very, very far apart.
I'm sure there's a movie in there. I think one of those college flicks where you got the rival houses. Oh, you could even go Shakespearean. As Montagues and Capulets.
But no, it all worked out. Like it wasn't people just really got along. But I'm very proud of being the catalyst of that. I would have liked to have dated someone for myself, but I was very happy to be the catalyst of like that cross pollination of culture. Anyway, so then I came out here, got stationed out. I went from being stationed out there to being stationed out here, and in Long Beach, and started going, and it was a very, very different Rocky.
Very different. By the way, that's the Art Theater out in 4th Street in Long Beach. They did a great show. I believe they still do. I haven't been in like 15 years, which is depressing to think about. But I know Diego's still out there doing it. I think Bill is still out there doing it. The Shadow Cast. If you've never been to Rocky Horror Picture Show, highly recommend it. For us, it was a lifestyle. I went out there. It was my first experience really with any kind of cross-dressing. That kind of sexual openness was, big experience. And eventually, later on, flash forward from me being this wide-eyed young man experiencing this exciting new lifestyle to me playing Frankenfurter with technical difficulties.
Oh, that's right. You started one. I remember I actually appeared in that because I showed up, and you guys didn't have enough people. I think you needed a Brad.
Yep. And we used to guarantee that if you came and saw the show, there was a 80% chance you'd end up dating one of the cast members. But yeah, I did Frankenfurter and other roles, mostly Frankenfurter for about a year and a half.
I couldn't find your guys' theater. This is before GPS. This is like way back in the dark ages. It was in a mall, but it was like tucked around like the back end of a mall, and I'd drive around for like a half hour trying to find this place.
It was a long time ago. It was the place is actually located east of Eden, down by Nod. It was a pretty long time ago. That's Bible humor, people.
If they had GPS, Moses wouldn't have spent 40 years in the desert.
Oh, yeah. But that was a fun time. That was I was skinny and I had long hair down to my upper back. I was skinny because I was starving. Actually, it was a pretty dark time when I think about it. But
I fed you.
Yes, you did. That was the phase of our relationship where I was crashing on your couch, as opposed to later on
when I crashed on your floor.
Yes. Doug and I have a weird relationship. We have given each other cars, though he's actually flat out given me a van while I rented him my car at one point. Just weird kind of karmic back and forth.
Well, okay, but just to examine that, Phantom had no car, and I was like, "Hey, here's a van." And the other time when I rented your car was the impetus that was, "Hey, I was talking to people, I need a car, and I was going to buy one." And Robert's like, "I need to make my rent. You can give me $1,000 now, and then $150 every month, and this way I could not be homeless, and you'd have a car."
Yes.
Which was nice, and I appreciate it, except for the fact that it had a warrant on it. But
we found out later.
But even that was at least phrased to me as, "Can you help me with this?"
True. That was definitely more in my favor and more of helping me out. But
it helped me too. I consider it to be an even exchange. But I just want to point out that the premise of that was, "Hey, look, I can't make my rent."
It sounds nicer. I like the story better, and it makes me look better when I just say, "Hey, we just gave each other cars back and forth."
Well, I'll make you look better. We hadn't talked in like 5 years, and I called Robert and said, "I have no place to live, and I'm going to die. Can I crash on your floor?" And after not talking 5 years, he's like, "Yeah, sure, of course."
Oh yeah. Again,
does that make you feel better?
Makes me feel better. But I mean, when somebody who's actually done the exact same thing for you in the past calls you, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, "Okay, am I going to do this thing, or am I just literally the worst human?" There's no looking yourself in the mirror after saying no to that.
Of course, that people do all the time.
Yeah.
So, have you? This is so. I think this is guy culture versus girl culture. And obviously, they're like I am not so monolithic to think that all guys act the same because they don't, and I'm different from most guys. And girls obviously have a wide range of behaviors. But this I've encountered. If you do a favor for a guy, he understands you're going to call him back at some point and say, "Hey, remember that favor you owe me?" And you're going to collect on it. You do a favor for a girl and you say, "Okay, remember that favor I did?" And she goes, "Yeah, you wanted to do that. It has nothing to do with I'm going to do. I don't owe you anything." I'm like, that's what favors are for. That's why you say, "I owe you one." That's where the phrase comes from. And they have no understanding of this.
Now, this is one of the things, but a few times, Doug and I finally disagree on a thing. And I can relax my nodding muscles in my neck for my, I'm in danger of my head falling off from nodding so hard.
We disagree all the effing time.
Yes, and this is one of those things that I think that some kind of men are from Mars, women are from Venus, from Venus kind of. Now, mind you, I see where that line of thinking comes from, but I've just seen so many exceptions to the rule. I cease to see the rule.
Okay. Have you called a guy and say, "Hey, I done you a favor. You owe me one. I need to collect," and try doing the same thing with a girl?
So yeah, but I guess I don't. I feel like I'm an exception to the rule, but also, so rarely am I actually able to.
I'm just saying. Have you experienced both? Have you done A and done B?
Honestly, the most recent experience in my head is the last lady to do me a solid. And that was definitely, there's a reciprocal relationship going on where I will do favors and then get treated in kind.
But not where it's offered, where you try to call it in. Say, "Hey, remember this?"
I don't think I've ever called in a favor.
Well, then you can't speak to the situation of calling in a favor.
But as a guy who's supposed to be the one who's calling in the favors all the time.
Well, you haven't called in a favor to the guy either. You just asked for help.
But I am a guy. I don't see the currency. I don't see it as currency. I don't see karmic currency.
You just said, "I called in a favor with you from like 5 years later," and you're like, "I have to do this." If you were a girl, you'd be like, "I don't understand the question."
Well, that was okay. It was less of a currency like I owe you one. It was more of what kind of person am I?
I thought that was the way you phrased it. I thought you phrased it as, "This happened 5 years ago, and I need to reciprocate," which might be a different way of saying the thing. But I just think that there's an understanding of currency between guys that girls are like, "I don't get that."
I guess I think my language is pretty confusing, given I don't even believe in karma, much less karmic currency.
You did say karma.
Yeah. Well, because it's an easy word. I also swear to God all the time, but we're not going to get into that.
Words mean whatever you want them to mean?
Yes.
Humpty Dumpty?
Yes, indeed. It is very important. I never, ever claim not to be a hypocrite.
See, I'm not a hypocrite, but if somebody else did the things I say and the things I did, I'd call them a hypocrite. That's not true. That's just a joke I came up with. I have it at Chesties on stage, and Robert just fed me the opportunity. But I think I made a T-shirt out of that like a year ago. No one's bought it, but I thought it'd be a fun T-shirt.
I think we got to get your T-shirt store up on my gotta get a link onto my Facebook, because a lot of the T-shirts you made, I end up going, man, I wish I had that shirt. It's a great shirt. You've got a lot of very clever phrases, many of which true story. Doug put it on a T-shirt, then somebody else put it on a T-shirt, and they made a bunch of money.
Well, Robert tells me that he constantly tells one of my phrases that I came up with, which was travel. It broadens the travel broadens the horizons.
And horizontals the broads.
Thank you, Robert. I meant to cue him, but his back was turned.
Yes.
We're not good at this.
No, I wasn't prepped for a visual cue. I'm pacing because I'm nervous.
Robert's nervous because there's someone we can't mention, but there's a spectator here today.
Yes. Well, that and I'm just actually for anybody else thinking about doing a podcast and thinking you might be kind of nervous or anxious doing the thing. Yeah, me too. Kind of I'm nervous every time, but Doug does this well, and had enough fun, and actually making this happen is pretty darn exciting.
See, this does not trigger my anxieties at all. But when I had to try and upload this and get the material actually up onto the internet using Libsyn, we're using libsyn.com, I freaked out. And I was like, I need to find 12 hours. I said a day. I'm like, I'm going to do this on Saturday. And then Saturday rolled around. I'm like, is there anything else I can do for the next 12 hours to give me an excuse not to do this? And it ended up being pretty easy to do, but that's where my panic attack hit.
And earlier we were talking about going up on stage. I don't know if you want the whole podcasting public, all 100 of them, to know about, because Doug's gone on stage. You know about how many times you've gone up for comedy? Like, do you have a rough number?
Between open mics and performance, probably about 150.
You're saying for the first year you were pretty much throwing up before every performance.
No. Well, every time when I got called, and I was about like a minute away from going up, my stomach would like flutter, and I'd be nervous. And like one of my first gigs, comedy contest, and my voice was fine and my body was fine, but my leg was shaking like 100 miles a minute. And people couldn't see. So when I saw the video, you can't tell, but I felt it. It was like, and I'm like, stop it, leg. And it's like, fuck you, man. I do what I want.
I've actually gotten the leg shake before. I haven't been on stage in a very long time for my own thing. I've done the MC for stage performers and things, but that's always just introducing someone else and never triggered my, anxiety. But I'm going to be going up on stage, and that very soon. And that the idea that is definitely going back in that. When I was very young, going on stage for the first time, and I've had people give me very good feedback for the times I used to go on stage doing acting or whatnot, doing skits with my friends, and I always got very positive feedback. They all say I'm very good. I'll take their word for it.
Robert's good. He's a very talented actor, and he's good at doing this. But he is nervous. You can't see this, but but Robert, you told us, like you said to me that like that the triggering, the panic attack is what you're in it for.
Yes, because then it hits my adrenaline. That's what I got hooked when I was junior high. I went on stage. I was terrified. I did the thing, and I think it was a Monty Python sketch actually, and came off of stage, and I was so flowing with adrenaline, I got hooked to that experience. And it took me a long time before I realized I was just enjoying the adrenaline rush, but it was like free drugs. But so much time had passed, and I kept chasing it that I get that now. That's the performance. That's the that's what my drug of choice now.
See, I just love the attention, the experience, and like if you say something funny and you get a reaction right away, like there's that feedback loop that I just love performing and doing something. So to me, it's not like the adrenaline rush. Although I do have adrenaline rush after, to me it's the during.
And definitely, that's what keeps me doing anything comedy oriented. I was actually talking about this with my therapist.
Because mental health was always going to be an element of this.
Absolutely, mostly because I'm a crazy person. Taking the word back, it's okay. Some people don't like you using the word crazy. I like it. Everybody's got their crazy. It's not a question.
But you were telling your therapist?
Yes. I was telling my therapist. It's definitely just an approval button, like a rat hitting the button for the treat. It's jokes and comedy has always been my go-to for just getting that approval. I've always been so afraid of people that when I throw out a joke and it hits and people laugh, that's like instant gratification of like instant approval and acceptance. I think a lot of comics and performers have that very same thing.
Well, possibly not, since so many comics I know aren't funny. I have to assume they're not in it for laughs.
Oh.
This is why I have lots of friends. And on that note, before I lose any more friends, this has been another episode of Theater School Rejects, and this which I think applied more to my experience at theater school than Robert's. But anyway, this is Doug X at Love is Cthulhu.
This is Robert Kyle at Typo Nevermind.
Getting rejected from theater schools everywhere.